Hello.
Hello, hello, hello. Welcome back to episode 7.
Wow, I can't believe we made it this far. Episode 7.
I think we get more surprised every episode number each when it goes
Even,
up. I'm
yeah,
like, we're at episode 7, you know?
it's crazy. Thanks for tuning in. We have a
It is. It is.
exciting one this week. We have decided
We
to
do.
call it the one calling the shots. If that gives you any idea of
Yeah, there's your first
who
clue.
we might be talking to today. She's looking at us very confused.
um we're going to give you a few facts to introduce this guest. They started Synchro at about age 14, and they were a member of the first Scottish synchronized skating team.
Yes,
which is cool.
Scotland.
What accent was that?
I was I was channeling How to Train Your Dragon.
Get in the bin. She is now a technical specialist, so that gives you another clue. She has tech spec'd both Sabrina and I, myself, many, many times. And she loves cats, and her cat is here with us today. So, I've already alluded to it's a tech spec. Bree is just going to give you a little bit of a background between tech spec and judge, just in case we've got some non-synchro listeners.
Yes, just in case you don't know, so we're at synchro competitions when it comes to scoring and all whatnot, all the fun stuff, who gets first, second, and third. There's two sides to the judging panel. So you've got the judges themselves, and they look at basically, in the easiest terms, how pretty something is.
Yeah.
And then we also have the tech panel, who are the people that are following the rules and checking to see how the teams meet the rules requirements. So I would say they're the important ones because the rules are our lifeline. Would you?
Yeah, true.
But
yeah,
those.
I'm biased. I love tech specs. That would
Yeah.
always be the route I would go down.
Yeah.
So I'm excited for this episode.
So that's the difference of the two. But we would love to welcome our guest today, Afton.
The lovely Amanda Clinton. Hi, Amanda.
Hello.
Thank you so much for joining us, and welcome to the podcast.
Thank you for having me.
No, you're welcome. You're welcome. We're going to get straight into it with some questions. We've already alluded to the fact that you started synchro at 14. So yeah, talk to us about when you first started skating and what got you into it.
So that's a quick answer. My mum, she
Nice.
was a skating coach. So obviously, as soon as I was old enough to put skates on, I had skates on.
Nice.
I didn't really take to skating for I didn't find my passion for skating until I was about 10.
Okay.
And then we did precision at some of our shows, just like our fun shows. And then one year, Brian Morris decided to suggest that we should maybe take a synchro team to the Scottish Championships, and that we created the synchro team. I think it was 2001, and we competed for the first time in synchro. And we were the only team at the event because we were the only Scottish team at the time, but it was great. So,
And what were they called?
the Moray Dolphins.
Nice. I've bonus points for any listeners that knows that team name because they're now disbanded, aren't they? Have they finished?
At the moment, yes, we don't use the name.
Yeah.
Still on the roster, so one day we could use the name, but we just don't have enough.
Fingers crossed one day they can make a return.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. I mean, there was a reason for the name. So we live next to a patch of water called the Moray Firth, and it's full of dolphins. So that was actually where the name came
That's
from.
cool. I like that.
Yeah.
I like that. Nice. Okay,
That's
cool.
so cool. So then how long did you skate competitively for?
I only did 3 seasons in synchro, and we were mixed age or the equivalent at that point. And then I took over. My mum decided it was time to retire, and at that point I had a choice to make. And as one of the only coaches left in Inverness, I wanted to take over. So yeah, I stepped away from the skating side and became a coach.
Nice. How did you find that transition? Because I know that's both something Sabrina and I have done, and many people out there will, have that skater to coach transition. Yeah.
I don't know. I actually think for me the coaching was more natural.
Okay.
I worked very hard as a skater, but I was never a natural talent. So everything I did in skating, I had to work really hard to achieve. But the coaching I really enjoyed, and I was already helping with the younger teams as we developed. And Mum was on the board for British ice skating, so at that point she was taking me around Scotland to develop synchro in Scotland. So I actually went with her to Ayr, Dumfries, Aberdeen. We went all over and helped them start their clubs and stuff. So for me, that was an easy transition because it was something I was already enjoying because she was taking me to skate with the team.
Yeah.
Absolute pioneer of synchro in Scotland.
Well, my mum was, I helped her.
Sounds like you made a good team.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think we need to shout out one of your programs from last season for a second. I wonder if Brie knows which one I'm on about. So Amanda has excellent music choice.
Oh, I know where this is going.
I know where this is going to.
And she had us up dancing to her Hannah Montana themed program. Oh, it was incredible. You had the hoedown throwdown. You had it. It was just incredible.
We still have the Hannah Montana for this season.
Yes!
Brilliant.
In our basic novice program this year.
So. Brilliant.
Yes!
Brilliant. Nice.
It's full circle. Sorry, all the fans of those things are now becoming coaches or like in charge.
Maybe you can inspire me with some moves for the program.
We'll show those later.
It's a good job this is a visual podcast for now. Oh, not a visual. It's a good job that this is not a visual podcast, you know, because no one needs to see those. Nice. Okay, sounds like you had a very natural transition into coaching then. Was it kind of as natural when you decided to transition into being on a tech panel? Like, how did you kind of make that move? What did you consider when you were going into it? Talk us through that process.
So, let's see. I think it was about 2009. Might be we had a camp, a skate camp, and Anu was over from Finland.
Nice. And the legend.
Yes, and during one of the lunch breaks, she offered to sit with me and talk me through some of the rules because I was still getting my head around them. And as she started talking, I was listening and I just thought, this is fascinating. I went home and I really studied up on the rules. And it must have been 2009 actually, because then in 2010, my mixed age team won their first British Championships and we haven't won very much. So it was quite a big thing for our squad because we really didn't expect that. And that was thanks to the technical knowledge. And that season, I sat and listened to my first panel. So yeah, it was she kind of got the interest stirring during that camp, and yeah, it just led from there, really.
Wow, that is such a key message there, isn't it? Understanding your technical rules and that is the most important thing, right? They're the people that are winning.
It is a numbers game when it comes down to it.
It is. It fully is.
What then was the first competition that you tech spec'd at?
It's really hard. There were quite it's all blurred into one as the years have gone on. But I think my first competition might have been D-side.
So for those that don't know, because we have a fair amount of international listeners, D-side is, now correct me if I'm wrong actually, Amanda, it's North Wales, isn't it, D-side? Yeah. So I think I've actually skated a tiny little ice rink that's just in the north of Wales. So that is a little nook in the corner of the UK.
And I'm sure it was a really short event. I think there was only 3 junior teams or maybe 2 junior teams and 1 novice team. So it was a case of the teams went on for their official practice. There was an ice resurface and then they skated the competition.
Sounds like a synchro in New Zealand, Brie.
And I have a memory. I do have a memory of being really nervous the night before about going down to dinner with all these judges who I've had judging me for years, and and then I was having dinner with them. So I remember being asked I was walking out my room and I bumped into Noel and Cyril.
No way.
And Cyril Yates, they were going down at the same time as me, and they both judged me at a recent test session. So I remember them hooking me up under the arm and like, let's go, and marching me into dinner. And I was like, oh, okay.
That's so nice.
Absolute legends of the judging world there.
Yeah.
How long was the process to kind of qualify as a tech specialist? How long was it?
So it took a few years. I went to Frankfurt for my first attempt at international in 2014.
Mm-hmm.
I wasn't quite successful for that. I did great in the written, but I just wasn't ready for Frankfurt in all its glory. And all my judging friends out there will relate to me when I say that.
Mm-hmm.
I was very nervous, so just didn't quite make the cut for the practical. But
Mm-hmm.
then I went back in 2016 and I got amazing feedback on my improvement and the support I'd had. And there were so many people around the world that helped me achieve how I did in Frankfurt in 2016. So yeah, from 2010 till 2016, I was kind of working on national panels.
Mm-hmm.
From 2014, maybe 13 actually, I went to Winter Cup and I got international activity on the non-ISU categories, and that
nice
really, really helped with the development, actually getting out and seeing different teams and not just working on British teams that I'd see you get used to a certain style.
Yeah, for sure.
And every country has their own style. So you go to a new country and then you look at a program like, wait, that's different. I've never seen that. That's a new way of doing it. So yeah, 2016 was international. And then 2018, I got my ISU. So it was an 8-year process.
Wow.
From listening to my first panel to actually achieving my ISU.
Yeah. And for the people that don't know, can you explain the difference between the theory and then the practical side of all that training?
Yeah. So there's kind of 3 parts. Well, 4 parts. You have the written exam, which is the knowledge test. So there's lots of questions about the rule book and about your general knowledge within the rules. And then you have a element ID exam where they play a couple of videos and you have to call the program. So you're not working on a panel, you're working individually, and you have to call the program as you see it. And you get, well, when I did it, you got 1 chance on each video. So if you missed something,
right,
it's
up.
And funnily enough, on one of the exams, I actually wrote on the table. So I'm busy writing the step sequence out, and obviously while you're watching a screen, you can't look down to write. You have to learn to write quickly and not look down. And for some reason, I wrote really big, and I don't normally write that big. And I used the whole paper and just carried on writing, looked down, and I was like, oh.
Oh my goodness.
A couple of my steps had made it onto the table. So.
The brain was working too fast.
Yeah, so that was part 2, and then you have your practical exam where you enter a room and you have a panel assessing you, so there'll usually be about 4 people, and you have your full panel, so there'll be a controller, specialist, TS2, and then your data and video. So it's exactly as a panel. They play 2 programs for each specialist and they have to call it, and you just work as a panel exactly how you would do it. That bit is really nerve-wracking because obviously when you work on a panel in front of a team, they're not staring at you. They don't even know you exist at that point. They're there to show to the audience and things. I know they know we're there, but they're not.
Not at the front.
Whereas in this point of view, you're on a headset, but with your headset being played over speakers, and you have people literally looking at you and watching how you work. So it's it's character building.
Yeah.
It really is. Like, I think I was actually quite, I mean, people will laugh at this that know me. I was quite shy when I was younger.
Right.
And I still Afton looks confused.
I really, really was. I was shy. And this whole process has really brought me out of my shell.
I guess you do have to be quite opinionated, right, to be a tech specialist.
Well, one thing I really like about the TS role, I don't think it's necessarily opinionated. We have a rule book. We have, we really hope is a black and white rule book. Now, sometimes there is some grey area, of course, with everything. But if you look for the right clarification and you speak to the committee, they will clarify for you. And so realistically, you know, when you find those areas, you go for clarification. That's what the Q&As are for every season.
Yeah.
So it should be black and white in theory.
In theory, but nothing in this world is black and white. Let's be honest. Okay,
No.
black and white are not black and white. They're different shades. So yeah, but that part of the exam is definitely character building, and the final part, which you do have to do, is also a step ID. So you do have to also they play a step sequence on the screen, and we have to
Right.
say it out loud.
Blimey, that is intense.
And
that is a
my favorite part, actually, there's another part. So they do a wee interview in Frankfurt. So
yeah.
you go in and you speak to just a couple of the top people at the time, and they just want to chat. And it's kind of just to check that your English
Got it.
is good, because you do
Yeah.
English is the required language for the international
Okay.
panels. So obviously I go in and Scottish, and of course the Scottish referendum was going on when I went in.
Oh
So,
god.
and I am not political. No, I have no idea what's going on in politics. And the first thing I get asked is, "So, are you voting for staying?" Okay? And I was like, "Oh no."
Here we go.
I'm here to talk about skating. Just let me talk skating.
Don't ask me about politics in my country.
I haven't prepared for that.
I hadn't prepared for that. I was properly panicked. I was like, no, I want to stay in Great Britain.
That is, yeah, I promise.
I was like,
Oh,
is
that's
there a right answer to this?
yeah. Is this part of the test? Will you pass me if I?
Yes, I want to be Scottish.
That is, I didn't realise the process was that long. Not that I have any doubt in the ability of tech specialists at all, but that just shows you how knowledgeable you have to be a tech specialist, doesn't it? Like, I think Brie and I think and like a lot of people know the rules, but God, I wouldn't stand a chance.
We know the rules from a skater's perspective, not a...
Yeah. Can we do that? Yeah, sure.
There is a long process, and I will say
Yeah.
I was quite lucky with the speed of my process. There
Wow.
are some countries, and I'm sure if anyone from Finland's listening that does this training, their training is longer.
Wow.
And but it shows. I think the
Yeah.
longer people train
Yeah.
in the role, the better they are at the role. And I've worked very, very hard to try and make sure that I stay on top of my knowledge. And if I don't know something I don't guess, I ask.
Yeah.
It's the
Easiest
only
way.
way. Yeah.
Time to hype up Amanda. Sorry,
Yeah.
pause. Because Amanda's been as our team leader to Worlds. She has come and helped Icicles with camps. She's just great.
She's a bit of a
So
god in UK
She
Synchro.
is. She is. She saves us. There's been many a time where there's been like an issue with our like elements and stuff, and she's just gone, "Excuse me." And it's like, "Thank you." She's incredible. Okay, thank you, Brie. You can continue.
I was just gonna say, do you think that the difference in the size of the sport has to do with the levels of training, and like, for example, in the UK versus Finland, like obviously there's a ridiculous number of teams, so is it a lot more competitive to get into tech specially over there?
My guess would be, I'm not actually sure. I mean, I've met so many people that are training over there, but I think it's competitive for them to go further. So to go international ISU, I know they have to wait their turn. So when I was put forward for Frankfurt, there was only myself and Amanda Hembro, so there were only two of us.
Yeah.
So I wasn't competing with anyone. And we're still very small. I mean, we do have a handful of people training to BTSs now. And we definitely have a couple of promising people to go forwards next time. So the next exam, I think, is not this summer, but it'll be the following summer. But again, we don't have enough people where there's a competition to work hard to get there. At the moment, it is, as people are ready, we can send them. So it's great that they will get the opportunity to go. Yeah, but it would be great to see in the future more people maybe are no longer skating that would be keen to progress down that route.
So, since you qualified in 2016 and then ISU in 2018, what would you say some of your highlights of being a tech spec has been? Like, what competitions, what experiences? Just talk us through those. That's a big question. I'm very sorry.
It is a big question, because for me, every competition I attend is amazing. I wouldn't say I've had a bad experience. I love, every event has something special to offer. Every event has something unique about how they run their event. They look after so well. There's always good teams. And one thing I really enjoy is I enjoy being able to do both the ISU and the non-ISU events. That's a highlight for me because I know the ISU teams are incredible, and it's honestly a privilege that I get to tech on those teams. It will always be a privilege because the amount of work and discipline that these teams that are competing at Worlds and in the international events do is incredible. But sometimes the non-ISU events are just as incredible. You'll see something in an juvenile team, and it'll be the cutest thing you've ever seen. And you're like, oh, I wish I'd thought of that in my program. And so it's, even though, you know, you have your top teams, I like being able to do the whole contrast and see what's in the grassroots. It's also fun revisiting countries each year and seeing how they're developing. And that is happening through, and I'm very privileged that I'm on a few mailing lists, so I do get invited to quite a lot of competitions. And I'm very privileged to actually see that development throughout the year. Definitely say that's one of the highlights for me, is just getting to go back and revisit and watch the competition get bigger.
Yeah, I mean, it's a sport that's just growing, isn't it? And I think it's
so
both
nice
Bree and I, and I was gonna say we all kind of joined at that time where like it was so new. And then even if you look like at the British Championships, right, like if I think back to my first one, I don't even know when, there was like 20 teams. There's so many teams now, and for a country that is, you know, it's very middle par in the world, like it's incredible to see how much even we're growing. And then you look to those other countries, like we've spoken a lot about the Netherlands, how they've grown, Germany, like this, some of these countries are just doing incredible things, and it's such a cool time to watch the sport grow, I think.
And I guess as a tech specialist, you literally see the technical side of it growing and how they improve that way, going from base to threes and fours.
Well, I mean, you do see a lot of teams, and some teams obviously go to multiple competitions in the season, and as I'm also teching at multiple competitions, I do tend to see teams develop over the season. And it's amazing when you see a team that come out at the beginning of the season, and with this, an example would be the new complex patterns in the intersections are really tough this year. And watching them at the beginning of the season, and then you speak to the controller, and the controller gives the team feedback. They come out later in the season, and it was the same last with the simple patterns. They developed, and you saw the teams take away that advice and fix it and push forward, and you see the improvement. So you see a team potentially getting really low levels at the beginning of the season and coming away at the end of the season screaming with pride at their score. And it's like sometimes on the headsets you're like, screams, actually, if the positioning's right of the teams, it can really hurt our ears.
You can hear.
But that really, that's a really nice thing to see, is when a team finally gets the score they're aiming for.
Yeah, absolutely. No, for sure. Right, should we deep dive into some elements? Because why not? Let's talk elements. Let's talk technical stuff.
Okay.
So, pivoting block obviously changed considerably this season to include the diamond.
Yep.
Or the pyramid.
What option do you think is better?
I mean, I haven't actually, I have to say, I haven't seen any diamonds live this season.
Okay.
I've only been to a couple of competitions, so it's early season. But I have seen some on the video, and I think it really depends on the team and how they're performing it. So I did monitor some teams early in the season, and I did advise pyramid might be a safer bet.
Okay.
But I think it really depends on how they're setting it up, how it's being coached. And some of the teams have been very clever with pyramid, I've noticed. It doesn't really look like a pyramid or a diamond. They've been very smart with their lines, and to be honest, why not? It doesn't say you have to have one person, 2 people, 4 people.
Still kind of looks like a block. An even block.
But then it's
that's such a good point.
But there's some very clever coaches out there who have found the way to make it easier for their skaters. And why not? I mean, I salute the teams that are going for the the really tough shapes.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And it looks cool. I like a little bit of difference. It makes
Something
it's added to the element.
so different. I guess because for such a long time the blocks were a block, they were a square. It was pretty much a rectangle, like it was all so perfectly shaped, and now they're trying to make things a bit more interesting to watch. I guess is that where the development's coming from?
I believe that's kind of how it sounds from description.
Yeah.
I was in Prague a couple weeks ago, and there was a lot of talk about, there's a lot, for the television, making our sport more visually impressive, because if we want to go towards the Olympics,
Yeah.
we need to find the right route.
But that's kind of
so
crazy, because you would have thought that
Yeah.
Synchro is already pretty visually pleasing. Like that's the
Yeah,
whole point.
I've got to interrupt there. Are you telling me that a diamond-shaped block is going to get us into
No.
the Olympics?
Not at all. But what I'm saying is they're trying to find a way to get the people that we need to like it.
Yeah.
For me, synchro is the best sport.
100%. I
I'm
think we're all going
biased.
to agree.
Yeah.
I'm not
Not
gonna
at
lie.
all.
I love this sport. I would not be this involved and give up all of my holidays every year to travel to events if I didn't love it.
Yeah.
And I'm sorry, but synchro is incredible. So
Yeah,
I
I
just-
think it's crazy it's not gotten to
We
the Olympics
agree.
yet. Like,
it is crazy.
because it's such a spectator sport. It's awesome.
I mean, we would bring the crowds. That's what
Of
they
course
want.
we would.
Oh,
We'd bring the crowds, the money, the everything. Oh,
But
but that's a whole other episode. So
on, on the pyramid thing, I think
Mm.
most of the coaches that listen to this will be like, "Why did she say it looks cool?" I don't think they think it's cool. But I mean, when I first saw it on the screen when they were doing the coaches meeting at Worlds, I did wonder, oh, how is that going to look?
Oh,
How are they going to
yeah.
coach that? But it really doesn't look as bad as I thought it would.
Yeah.
I was worried to start with, but I actually like it.
I think we were kind of the same when we first heard it. Obviously, we're not skating it this year, but we were like, what the?
it was
What's going
probably
on?
one of the wackiest changes. I thought I was like,
Yeah.
but it's a block, not a pyramid. I'm so confused. I'm quite an old-fashioned traditional synchro
Yeah, I think we
skater, so
both
some
are,
of-
yeah.
some of these changes for us, I think, are a bit like, but hey, the teams that are doing it that we've seen, they look stunning.
Yeah.
So good for them, right?
Um,
Yeah, it's impressive.
Speaking of, I guess then
Oh God.
easy segue onto the next one, spins. So
Uh-huh.
Afton and I are very much of the opinion that not that spins
They
don't
don't-
have a place
they
in
don't.
synchro, but we think the pair spins are keeping to the authenticity of
Yeah.
the sport. Like the whole point of it is to do stuff together. Can you say if you prefer the individual spins or the pair spins?
No, I don't have I have to be honest, I don't have a preference when
Okay.
it comes to spin. I think both have their own merits. I think
Yeah.
both bring different things. I do agree, yeah, from what your point of view, the pair spin is more synchronized. But at the same time, if you have a full team, and I saw a video, I can't even remember what team it was, but I saw a video last week on Instagram that popped up, and it was perfect camel spin
Yeah.
in single spin, and I got goosebumps.
The camel spins, I think, are the easiest to sync. Look at me talking like spin is easy, but you know what I mean. Like, I think, in my humble opinion,
Yes, but a consistent camel spin. So, I mean, I sat at a singles event a few weeks ago, and every second person had a camel spin that went wrong.
that makes me feel better.
Camel spins are hard. I personally had a skater whose camel spin went wrong that day.
Yeah.
And she ended up with a spin no value. It happens to everyone, even though you have the best spin in the world. So I think the teams that are doing the 3 positions, which is now required for level 3 and 4, I think that's an incredible skating ability. And I think it's helping maybe bridge the gap between people saying
true.
people go to synchro because they can't do something else. For me, well, actually, if you look at the way some of these people are skating, they can. So.
Yeah, I think I would 100% agree on that. As much as I give spins a load of slack, like spins a load of stick even. They they encourage a higher quality of skating, right? If you've got 16 people all sat in an eye spin and then going into a really back camel or whatever, it looks incredible. And yeah, you can't doubt that does. This is taking a lot for me to say because
Yeah, I was gonna say, wow, can I have this written down? Actually, we're recording it, so it's fine.
Did I just turn you around here?
I think
this
you
is
might
me
have.
out of synchro now. Yeah, I agree. I do agree. However,
I mean, I will agree. I love the elements. I love the elements where they are in shapes.
Yeah.
If it's done well, I think our thing is it's just not. God, this sounds awful. It's not done well often. It's just so hard to do well, isn't it? It's one of the hardest to sync up and
And because especially in Great Britain, we follow basic novice rules for all our low level categories. So this year, everyone has to do.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
All our out there.
So, yeah, the beginners, every category. And because last year we put the spin in instead of artistic as a challenge for the coaches, just to try and get them to understand the element, but we allowed them to do it. It could be on 2 feet. So they'd still get a base value for attempting a spin. Whereas this year, because it's in the rules, we've left it that they do have to do it correctly.
Oh my God.
Which I have a young team in Inverness who are, they're not competing this year because we don't have the right levels. But if we had to do our spin in competition, 50% would be on 1 foot, the other 50% would probably be on 2. So we're straight into spin no value. So it's potentially just looking at ways to make it so that the team can do it nicely without maybe struggling.
Yeah, it's trying to make us get better without us struggling. It's that gradual progression of increasing synchro, and not, I joke, but all of us doing triple axels in sync next season. You know, it's that.
I'd love to see that though.
I would too. I think it'd be great. ISU, if you're listening.
Shut up.
I've retired now.
What about, in the future, the jump feature, level 1 single, level 2 double, level 3 triple, why not?
Oh my gosh.
Nobody.
It's interesting how you talk like that, because again, we're both very like, no, get rid of it. Jumps, what are you doing?
It's just the way that this year, one thing we've all said on the panels that one thing that I'm really happy about is some of the levels are more in line. So for Twizzles, it's 1 rotation, 2 rotations, 3 rotations, 4 rotations. There's not the 3 rotations for level 4 and 2 and 3 rotations for level 3. So for us, it's easier to remember this year.
Yeah.
Because they need 4 features for level 4, 3 features for level 3. And they've done that for a lot of the elements this year. So.
Yeah. When you are looking to kind of call the spin, what is it you're mostly looking for? Is it the speed, the foot placement? Like, what, in your eye, what is a perfect spin element?
Well, I don't really mind how fast they spin because that's all judging. All I'm worried about is that they are achieving the features. So obviously the base value for a spin is they must rotate 3 rotations on 1 foot.
Right.
So the first thing I'm making sure is that everybody is actually completing the rotations. And for the lower level teams, that is what we're looking for.
Yeah. So even if it's as slow as humanly possible, you're like, as long as you get around.
If they make 3 rotations, that counts. Now, I'm going to shame my team a little bit because this is too funny. No, it's funny. And if they listen, they would actually laugh what I'm saying. So we videoed our spin element and we were playing with pair spin and solo spin. And we haven't done a lot of pair spins yet. So I had 2 girls that were pair spinning next to each other and they're trying to do a change foot upright in a pair. And I have one of my best single skaters in the team spinning right next to this pair. So she comes out of her broken leg sit spin into an upright spin, doing the fastest change foot upright, spinning like 100 rotations in a couple seconds, And this poor girl, these 2 girls next to her have done like 3 rotations in their change foot upright in the time this girl's done about 15.
That would literally be me.
Slow motion spinning. So yeah, there's for me the speed is definitely not a problem, but if the judges saw that,
they'd be
off you go with the minuses. Have fun.
Yeah.
No, for us on the spin, we are looking for the features. So we are looking for which of the 4 features do they have? And obviously,
Mm-hmm.
we can't give a change of position for level 3 and 4 unless they have all 3 positions now.
Yeah.
So we need to identify, do they have 3 positions? Do they change feet? Is it the correct number of skaters doing the feature?
Mm-hmm.
And things like the difficult positions, are they actually attaining a difficult position?
Is that
Mm-hmm.
hard to call? I mean, that's what you do, but making sure they're all doing it. Like, how does that work? Do you just
Yeah.
scan your whole way through everything?
No, so if I'm in the TS1 seat, I try to watch the whole spin element
Mm-hmm.
with my main, like, obviously I'm focused down the middle of the spin, but usually we would kind of split the spin by geography.
Okay.
So I would say to the controller, please can you watch the left side, and
Mm-hmm.
my specialist, could you watch the right side? So they
Mm-hmm.
watch the 2 lines, or one side of the circle, the other side of the circle, and we agree during the practices which side. So there are certain elements that do sometimes need to be split. So we agree, and this is something that in Frankfurt they expect you to do before your exam. So they would actually expect you to say that in front of them, right? I would like you to please watch this, this, and this, so that you understand the role. And then when we're calling, the call will simply be, if someone sees errors, they would just say, I have 2 errors, or
Yeah.
1 error. And if I only hear 1 error and I haven't seen them, then I call the level at the level. And if there is an error, there's enough errors, we would review
Mm-hmm.
to check that there are actually errors before we would lower the level.
Yeah.
So we always go in favor of the team. And if there are errors seen, then we would review to check.
Yeah, of
But they
course.
have to be identified. So we do also, sitting on the panel, we do have to say where the errors were.
Yeah, because you can't. Yeah, this is my favorite rule.
Mm-hmm.
I love this. Isn't it correct? Let me check my understanding here. So if you've seen something and it goes wrong, say someone's put their foot down, you then review it and you see maybe they're not on the correct edge. You can't not call them for the edge. It has to only be for the foot down. Yeah, I love that rule. It's great.
We cannot hunt for errors we have not identified. So anyone controlling, the controller's job is to make sure. And so if I ask for a review, I would say review the change of foot. And when the controller asks, Amanda, you reviewed the change of foot, why? I would then have to say, the left-hand corner, I had 4 skaters that were on 2 feet and didn't manage to do the change of foot. And at that point, if he was watching that side or she was watching that side, they would say, okay, I agree. I saw the same 4 skaters, so the call can be this. We agree on it, so it's fine. If they say, I didn't see that, let's rewatch it.
Mm-hmm.
And as long as I've identified the skaters I thought were doing it incorrectly, it's fine. But if I couldn't tell them, then they have the right to say that I can't have a review. If I can't justify why I'm reviewing it, they won't necessarily let us watch it again.
You really are on our side. This is insightful.
All tech panels are on the team's side.
Yeah.
And it's funny because the first thing my teams do is when they get their score sheet, oh my God, we didn't get that called. And it's the same with every single team. And the first thing you look at, and I think the judges sometimes feel left out, because it's not like you look at your score sheet and go, oh, I got minuses. The first thing your eyes go to is the level you got.
Yeah.
And sometimes I would be more like, oh, my eye goes straight to the minuses or the pluses, as it occasionally, you know. So yeah, it's funny that we are on the skater side, and the rule is, if you're not sure, you go in favor of the team.
Yeah. This I guess goes similarly into, we wanted to talk a little bit about jumps themselves as well. Obviously they're a feature in the no hold and difficult entries, exit, and all that sort of stuff. Is this, I guess, the same sort of process as that? There, you look for certain parts of the element to call if the skaters have done the jump, all very much the same.
So the no hold.
Yeah.
So it's slightly different. I don't split the no holds, because obviously it's moving as a unit. It has to stay together. So I don't tend to split that. For calling on a no hold, so for jumps, we would simply identify the features we're seeing as we see them. So as the axis has happened, and obviously if you've completed the requirements, I would just say diagonal. And then when the jump happens, if, for example, one skater does not jump, which happens, I would say no jump, one not attempted.
Afton's gonna be the non-attempted.
Whoa, don't out me like that. I always attempted.
So
No, because
as long as you leave the ice with 2 feet, if you've attempted it, we will give it. But
take that back, Sabrina Snoad.
There are skaters that twizzle.
Yeah, I never did that ever.
That has happened.
Yeah.
And it's not always deliberate. Sometimes
just
they've had a trip, something's not worked, or maybe they're just nervous. It just goes wrong. But
relatable.
There's times when it doesn't work. But so we just have to identify what we see in the no hold.
So just leave the ice.
So it does have to be a listed jump. Okay. So if you just did a 2-foot hop, then I would not be identifying that as a listed jump. However, if they attempt a toe loop and land on 2 feet, but they've done the rotation of the toe loop, that is okay. It's not like singles, but the judge's GOE won't be good.
Yeah.
That's not going to help your GOE if the quality of the jump is not good.
What is your favourite jump to call?
Yeah.
Mine's none of them, if you hadn't guessed that.
Well, I'm not actually calling a jump. Like, I don't even identify what jump is being jumped.
It's just
being done.
So you're telling me we could have done a 3 jump and then like a Lutz and it would have been the same?
Yeah. From my point of view, all I have to see is a listed jump.
Wow.
So it doesn't matter. I mean, apparently there was one team, I don't know which team it was either, but last year there was one team where somebody kept doing a double and the rest were doing single.
No.
Overachiever.
Yeah, there was one team and I remember it and somebody was like, no way, they did the double jump. And I was like, did they? I wasn't on the panel for that one. We were sitting watching.
Oh my goodness.
I missed it completely. But yeah, it does happen. But as for us, it's not a case of, oh, they did a Lutz, they did an axle. It's they've done a listed jump. I can tick my box. I've got a jump feature. So
have we seen 16 axles in a no hold yet?
Yes.
Have we?
Yeah, I'm sure there's a Finland team doing that this year.
I agree, yeah. It's starting. It's starting, guys.
Yeah, it is. It's coming. So.
Wow. Right, death spirals. Probably one of my favourite elements. So we've seen a lot of like change in the death spiral element, haven't we? Like with the entries and exits, and I think we just need a moment to talk about Roquette's difficult entry they did a few years ago.
That was like, was that one of the first?
Yeah.
The flippy one.
Yeah.
That's incredible. But what do you think? Like, what the entries and the exits? What do you think are the most achievable? The ones that I know you're not judging for what looks good, but what do you think looks the best?
Well, to be honest, the exits are still a bit of an unknown thing for me.
Yeah.
There's definitely a theme coming into this season.
Yes.
Where most of the teams are dropping into kind of a split sort of movement and coming.
Yes.
That is theming. I mean, so far most of the teams I've seen, that's how they've come out of there.
Do you think that's going to be airing very easy on the edge of falling as well? Like that's going to be
or 2-foot exit, right?
Well, that's where we have a bit of a it's a tough one for the panel. Pair element is another element like spin where we do have to split.
Yeah.
I mean, we had a pair element of, was it a pair? I think, but it was nearly the whole ice surface because they've taken away this 30-meter rule where they have to stay within.
I think that's dumb.
Well, I think the judges, it's still for the judges. So if they're miles
Don't
apart.
you mince your words, Sabrina.
No,
keep them close.
The problem was, I think, that with different size ice rinks, different panels thinking it was 30 or not 30, and I think sometimes it could be a little bit mean because there could be a 1.5 deduction put onto a team when it was on the border. So I kind of prefer they're not losing huge points.
That's a lot, isn't it?
It's quite drastic. So I think it's down to the coaches and their choreography on that one for me. And it's their choice if they want to be miles apart. But we do split the panel if it's a big element. But with the death spirals, it is quite hard because when they do those drops at the end, you're not sure sometimes if they've fallen or not. Yeah. So we have to judge it as, have they lost control? So we have to follow the definition of a fall. So if they still look like they're in control, then we will go in favour of the team. If they're very clearly having to put their knees down and it's not got, you'll know, you can tell if it's a fall usually. But when you've got 16 people and 8 of them doing that movement, it can be tough. But that's a new one this year because it wasn't.
No.
I would like to see more teams trying the flying exit. I think that's more interesting.
Yes.
Harder, a lot harder, but I think if teams attempt it and do it well, surely that would lift their GOE. It's going to reflect better.
Yeah.
To me, it seems a bit counterintuitive to add these elements like spins and jumps and then kind of add an option to do an exit like that, which wouldn't be used in, you know, pair skating, for example. Like that just, so it just seems counterintuitive to me. We're trying so hard to get us to close the gap, and then
I think we need some development years though, because these elements are quite new. In terms of how long pair skaters have been doing death spirals compared to how long. And I think the basic things of us having to put our toe pick in are still quite tough.
Oh dear, yeah.
Team of 16. And now that as a feature, even if your toe pick's in, they're not down in that beautiful deep position that the pair skater can get.
So different.
At the moment, I think it's kinder letting them have the exit and the entry. But then for the lower level teams, there are points to be had still. They can still achieve something. And then adding these other features, I think it's coming over the years. I don't see them sticking with the same entry exits forever.
Or even because remember when the death spirals first came in, and it was like you've just got to get down.
You gotta hold it.
You just
360 and up.
Yeah.
I watched some of those videos of the early years of when we were doing them, and oh my goodness, they just look like you're dragging someone.
If you think of it, they've not been in for that long.
No.
The development of the element has come already.
Yeah.
Like you said, there have been some really creative entries. For years, and teams are taking inspiration. I had a few skaters playing with some of those entries, and obviously we were never going to put it in a program, but they did it in shows and things, and it's great for teams to see those difficult entries and have the inspiration.
Another favourite, when I think it was Surprise pulled them through the legs, and then excellent. I had one more question about death spirals. What was it? I can't remember.
No,
couldn't have been that important. Bree, over to you.
Oh, on to me. Next one we wanted to talk about is the intersections, especially a little bit what you were talking about earlier, but also the required movements before the PI. Those ones, is that a grey area or is that a...
So this year there's a lot more clarity.
Okay, yeah.
In Prague a couple of weeks ago, there was lots of video examples played for us in the room, lots of discussions that were really helpful in just going over it. And I think the Q&A has come out and there's more clarification to try and help coaches. And there's always, with this element, there's always going to be a little bit of confusion, I think. Just interpretation. I was speaking to a coach today who just, you have interpretation of a rule. And the way you read it can sometimes not be how it was meant. But I think this year it's a bit clearer than it was. But it's a lot for our little brains. For my poor brain on the tech panels. There's a lot to think about because we have to identify the first skating movement. And one thing that a lot of coaches have said now through this season is they've already realized that they're opening the box for their element about 30 seconds earlier than they want to. So the complex, for the teams trying the complex pattern, we open the box after the last element finishes. And the first thing we see that's classed as a skating movement. So if you do a bunny hop, then that is your first skating movement. And they might have meant it to be a lunge 30 seconds later.
Right.
But we don't know what their first skating movement is. So we have to open the box from whatever we see first.
Pick the first one. So these elements are going to end up a lot longer than coaches had anticipated.
So then the poor judges have like a 30, 45-second video to watch back if they want to review an element because we've opened the box so much earlier than was originally planned by, maybe intended by the coach. So it's actually really funny. That it's just because they changed the definition of jump this season.
Right.
So before there used to be rotation required. Now a jump is just anything that leaves the ice.
That is fabulous.
Hop doesn't exist anymore. Hop is not in there.
Get me back into
So-
skating.
Yeah, so it's quite funny. So that it just slightly messes up the skating movements. Yeah. So the intersection entries for a complex pattern can last for quite a long time.
Yeah. What would you have any advice for coaches that are putting stuff together and
Don't use any little sneaky hops and jumps
Nothing.
until you actually want to open the box. Keep the steps like just from the end. Just from the end. So if you're doing no hold element and then your next element's intersection, just
Yeah.
make sure that your steps are not. There's no skating movement, listed skating movements, until you want that box to open. For the complex pattern, because if you have a fall, once that skating movement has happened, then
Fall in element, yeah.
element.
not a transition? It's in the.
It's in the
I
element.
didn't think of that. That's
Yeah. So the box is open earlier. So obviously in the practice we are identifying if they're doing a simple or a difficult pattern. So we'll know the complex pattern or the simple. So we will be more aware. And obviously we're not going to open a box on a team when we know it's a simple pattern.
yeah.
And if we did, we would correct it. So we would just have the pattern cut.
Wow.
Interesting.
So much more that goes into the section.
There is, isn't there?
Yeah.
I think when they're done right, they
Oh,
look
beautiful. Yeah.
brilliant, like incredible. I do love a good
But they're
intersection.
hard.
They are hard. I'd say they're one of the hardest, most technical elements. I really would.
I definitely agree. And
Yeah.
you also have the two parts to an intersection because you have the
Yeah.
PI and the intersection.
Yeah.
So it's not over once the pattern's done. You've got all the gaps to
You
get
might not
through
get-
clean with your one foot and
Yeah.
hands in the air. So,
Okay, I want to bring up lifts.
mhm.
Now we've gone down to 3.
Yep.
What are you looking for when now we're having 5 people in a lift and not 4? Like, how does it work? Is it just everyone has to assist, or
Everybody has to be involved in the lifting.
okay?
Yeah.
So they don't have to be involved in the pre-lift. So if you're doing the pre-group lift or whatever, or if you're doing a pair lift, it's just the final movement
up.
into the lift. You must be involved.
Everyone.
One thing I have noticed is the spare skater that maybe isn't involved in the whole lift. It is advisable they're not just standing on 2 feet.
Yeah, I noticed a few of these from some live
Is
streams.
that a
I've watched
safety thing as well at the moment, though? Maybe.
It is, and to be honest, from a coaching eye,
Yeah.
Yeah.
I actually do totally understand what I'm seeing and why there are skaters out there who maybe are just following, because I would much rather the skaters are safe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I will
That's the main
I will
thing.
relive last season. I will relive Worlds with the
Yeah.
pair of you. I
Yes.
was your team leader, and you fairly put us through a stressful moment during your practice.
Do you know, I was one of the only skaters that didn't see
Ours-
it because I had my back to it.
Ours was
Ours
the
was the
only
lift
one
that
that stayed
stayed.
up.
The video, I was videoing from the other side of the ice rink as that lift fell.
Just quick story time. At our official practice of our long program at last year's Worlds, we had literally all 3 out of our 4 lifts just hit the deck. And I'm in the split lift holding up the back leg, I think, or the front leg, I can't remember. And I've got my 2 girls in my lift literally
Me.
like, oh my
It's
god,
me.
oh my god. And I'm like, what's going on? And like everyone watching is like, and I'm like, what's going on? And then we went and did it again, and like everyone's lifts works. But yeah, there's your story time. But yeah, safety of the skater is paramount. That is so important.
For me, that after that especially, because
Yeah.
a team leader's worst nightmare is watching lifts come down like those did.
Yeah.
Because that could have been all sorts of problems. Thankfully both skaters that were dropped were fine.
Shout out to those girls that just got back up and did it again, and
A second
got back
run
up and
through and did the lifts like nothing happened, and then
Yeah.
off the ice saying they were slightly hurt.
Synchro
Yes.
skaters are hardcore.
They are
We are.
hardcore. And I had a lot of respect for that. To be fair, I think that day there were a lot of lifts that went down.
Do you
some
think that had
in
something to
air.
do with the ice as well? Because that was
Yes.
the shocking ice rink.
Yeah, you had a lot of. I remember there was a lot of skaters complaining. Yeah, I
Yeah,
didn't actually sample the ice, so I wouldn't have known
yeah,
firsthand.
Yeah, it was the strange ice. Okay, yeah, lifts. You know,
but
shock, another personal opinion. I don't think there should only be three. I think that is. Um,
I mean,
I don't know. I don't understand why that's happened.
I think they're just trying to allow for creativity.
Right.
yeah,
Because
Okay.
I guess some of the lifts that are happening this year are very tough. There's a
mm,
whole kind of new level of lifting coming in with this balancing or self-supporting skating,
yeah,
Mm-hmm.
and they are allowing for creativity because they've obviously given examples of what they're looking for within the lifts, but they
mm-hmm,
are happy for other movements and other things to happen within the lifts as long as
mm-hmm,
the panel recognize them as difficult. We can still give credit for those positions. So coaches out there can still try new things,
yeah,
and potentially maybe having that extra supporting skater underneath is going to help
Mm.
them try. And in the future, maybe they will take it back. You never know. I can't predict the future
yeah,
where the committee will go with it. But what I love about our committee at the moment is they do ask. So at every event, the people on the committee are asking us for our feedback on how we
Mm.
feel the rules apply.
right,
Mm-hmm.
And they're not just asking this panels, they're asking
Mm.
coaches. They
Mm-hmm.
want feedback and they welcome it because that way they can help develop the sport in the direction all of us want.
Mm-hmm.
yeah. Do you think that lifts in particular with this creativity though, is that going to make the gap bigger between the lower end of the teams, especially in senior, and the higher end? Because they're trying crazy stuff, but then there's teams that are
Mm-hmm.
struggling to get split lifts up, like.
But I think in a way that is actually right for
Yeah,
our sport because
I
don't
agree.
you don't have
Yes.
people going out in the singles world and every single one of them lands a quad
yeah,
jump.
yeah,
Mm.
So they're not all getting a level 4 spin.
yeah,
Mm.
You go out and you achieve what you are capable of
of
achieving.
doing.
Mm.
I think there needs to be, you don't want every team in the world going out and getting group lift 4,
No.
which
Mm.
was happening a few years ago. We were
Yeah,
getting to a
Mm.
point
true.
where everybody, the one that I think is still a level playing field is the pivoting block.
Mm. Yeah. When top teams are getting like group pivot block 2 and you're like, ooh,
Yeah,
this is
that
a
one is
level
still,
playing field. Yeah.
it's so I do think that it's right to make these elements a little bit tougher so
Mm.
you can really see the difference and you can push the sport in a better direction, hopefully.
I just remember when we all thought split lifts were like insane.
Uh-huh.
And now look, it's like
And now,
split lift.
now you're only
That's
allowed
the
2 split
beginning.
lifts at once.
Yeah.
They're too easy now, so yeah,
It's just mental.
yeah, a maximum of 2 at any one time.
So to finish off talking about elements, obviously we've spoken a lot about the change in synchro that's been happening over the past 10 years. Are there any elements that we don't see anymore that you miss? Like I'm going to use Bree's favourite element of a line. You know, we don't see them anymore.
Well, they're in the Masters category this year.
There you go, Bree.
Well, I'll go skate masters.
Pivoting line is in the, well, so it's our advanced adult category for Great Britain.
There you go.
So there you go. So you'll see, I think there's like 3 or 4.
Yeah, there's 3,
adult
isn't there? I
advanced
think. Yeah,
adult.
yeah.
So you'll see at least 3 or 4 lines at nationals.
There you
So you
go.
can just watch the live stream, okay? And then you'll get
yeah.
your. I mean, I bet that's exactly what you were looking for. Yes. Not
Yeah,
the massive
absolutely.
pivoting lines that with the team doing beautiful change of ends.
Oh,
Yeah, they were
just-
stunning. They were.
The
Not my
interacting
favourite,
ones
but
that
they were
got
stunning.
me. Sorry.
You know, the one question, when anyone asks me about a favorite element or an element that I miss,
Yeah.
honestly and truly cannot tell you an element that would be my favorite element.
because they're just also different.
Yeah, and I think it's different from different years and the rules
Yeah.
for each year and how teams perform them each year. So I honestly and truly, I've been asked this a lot. What's your favorite element or what element you miss? And I really don't know.
Mm.
So it's not
I mean,
hydrogen then.
no, it's not hydrogen. No.
Okay.
What do you think is the hardest element to call or tends to be the most unclear?
Again, it would depend on the category
Okay.
and it would depend on the time of year
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So I would
Yeah,
say
yeah.
every season there's going to be a different element that's hard to call.
Do you
Depend.
have any predictions for this season? Maybe in this ISU categories?
Um, I think, I mean, obviously with the intersection having quite a lot of changes with the
Yeah.
patterns, I think maybe that
Yeah.
one's going to be a little bit harder to start with.
Mhm.
Um,
Mhm.
but I don't know. It really does depend on. It depends on the teams and the category and
Yeah.
Mhm.
what they're actually attempting. So
And
that's
that is why Synchro is so good, because it
exactly
is just
You
so.
just don't know.
always a surprise.
Yeah.
It is.
Keeps us on our toes.
Yeah.
It is.
I mean, you have to be prepared for everything.
Yeah.
You do.
Literally. I guess that moves on to the next one. You've kind of already mentioned it a little bit about noticing a style between choreographers or countries as a tech spec. Like, what do you have any that you can, or a country or a coach that you're like, I know that's one of their programs?
I think I don't know because you see, you think you have a team, you think you've worked out where a team is from, and then the next season they come out, and you're like, wait, this is like a whole new style. I think the coaches out there are all really clever with their
Yeah.
choreography, and they spend so much time picking their music and picking the style, and they get choreographers in and they use different people, different years, or they have the same person, but that person's just incredible on the creativity. So yeah, you can usually kind of tell the very basics of a style,
Mm.
but I wouldn't say that there's a like stand out.
One that.
No, because they can all bring new things. They all have their style. They all have their main carriage, but then they bring this incredible programs to the field every.
Yeah. I guess that's a major
So,
compliment to the coaches as well because they are all so intelligent. They're so
Oh,
creative.
there's
They're so
some
onto it, like changing.
some of them out there are just, I don't know how they do it. Like, I think we've spoken a lot about the themes in recent episodes where I feel like 2016, 17 were like peak incredible themes. We've kind of gone through a bit of a confusing time for themes in Synchro. Like, we'd done all the normal quote ones, and we're looking at different ones, and we're kind of coming back on the other side where we've got a bit more like standard themes that can be interpreted a bit easier. I think this season there's some really cool ones. A lot of like starry blue ones, isn't there? But
so
I think there's
that does seem to be it. It's like there's a memo that goes out each.
yeah.
So last year, one that made me laugh is there was a lot of TikTok. There was a lot what kind of they weren't actually there was actually I think 4 teams that used the same little clip of music. I can't remember
Oh
which,
no.
but this year I know already of a couple of Eminem themes. I know
Really?
Chris themes. It's quite funny. So there's
It is.
yeah,
It's like a memo goes out. Like you're so
but they don't
right.
but they don't even know what the other is using. I
No.
mean, these teams probably don't even know they're using the same music
No.
or the
Yeah.
same theme yet.
Yeah.
The only reason I knew the Tetris one is because obviously we have a team here.
Yeah.
I've seen one of the teams from Finland using
Yeah.
same sort of style. But
Yeah.
it's actually amazing that even though they may have a similar theme,
How different it can be.
how different they can be and how creative they are.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
absolutely very cool to see the different interpretations
Yeah.
of a similar theme. But again, there's hundreds of themes.
Yeah, there is. You just got to have the imagination to figure out what you're picking.
So this one, I'm not sure if you will. I think we'd be very neutral with our questions. So, what is the worst element you've ever had to try and call or figure out? Not like a whose, just what is the type of element?
No, I want to know the worst thing that you've ever had to look at and go, what the fuck was that?
We can ask those off record.
I mean, I could actually be really, really mean right now.
Oh god. And say it was one of ours.
Yeah. Afton was us.
I would actually say right this minute, after last weekend at Trophy de Cost, and this is a shout out to my adult team, okay? So they have an attempt at a level 3 line.
Yeah.
They decided to re-choreograph a little bit.
Okay.
And if I'd have been on the technical panel, I would have been sitting there like, huh? So that was quite a hard one to call last weekend. They just changed it slightly, re-choreographed, didn't quite change.
We love adult teams. We
I
just
love
love them.
no, but I love my adult team. They're so much fun to work with, and they
Yeah,
have
they
such
are.
a cool program this year. And it's the same program from last year, but we've adapted a bit more and made it even
Nice.
more. And it's been running beautifully all season. And for the weekend, it just wasn't quite a clean skate.
Artistic
It's okay.
interpretation on the day.
Yes, it was artistic interpretation on the day, and they've all had a really good laugh about it since because it never normally
That's what's
goes wrong.
important.
But for me, when I was watching it, I was standing like, oh, so funny. But I mean, there are elements out there. I think in the past, maybe there's been intersections in the past where things
Yeah.
don't go well.
Yeah.
And again, as a coach, I can say that happens a lot when you're in practice.
Yeah.
And when you're trying to call something and it doesn't go clean, that can be tough. But it's just general, really. It depends on how the team skates on the day.
Hey, that's synchro, right?
Exactly.
We've kind of covered number 9, Brie,
Yes.
so maybe go straight to number 10, shall
Number
we?
10. Do you have a competition this year that you're most excited about being on the panel for?
Yeah.
What?
That's all I'm going to say on the matter.
Oh.
Definitely. But to be fair, I genuinely am excited to be on all the panels whenever I'm invited somewhere. Every competition.
Yeah. But there might be one that's just a little bit more exciting. Maybe. She's keeping a teaser.
All right, we're up to our final question. So, is there anyone within the world of judging, tech specking, coaching, synchro that you look up to, have used to kind of help you on your journey of qualifying?
Yeah. The list is long.
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel that.
But yeah, I mean, one person, just from my first try when I was in Frankfurt, one person that will always stick in my mind, just because she was on my panel and looked after me my first time round when I didn't go as well, was Lena from Finland.
Okay.
Nice.
So she just guided me through a week when it was very intense and I wasn't quite mentally prepared, and I think her calming influence on me really helped me set me up. Obviously Chris has been around and been there. He was the one that got me started in this country, and you're looking at the current committee that you have in place, and they're all an incredible support. Philippe always sits and has meetings with us after every event and makes sure he takes notes on anything we feel like we need to talk about or anything we feel like might need changing or tweaking. And it's really nice knowing that somebody's really listening.
Yeah.
And then there's got to be Kathy Bolton as well.
Yeah.
Been over and she helped us with our first Trophy to Cross events and things.
Yeah.
Her and Joanne were here, and I don't know, I could literally go on for about an hour naming people that have been there, made my journey what it is.
Takes a village, no matter what. Takes
I
a
mean,
team.
the biggest shout out has to go to my mum, because if she hadn't have got me into it, I wouldn't have been here. So.
Hey, we said it on our last
We
guest
say it every episode.
We do. Our mums, we would not be here today without them. So, big shout out to them. And that is a lovely way to end our questions. But we're going to move on to some quick fire. Now these are literally...
looks horrified. It's not that bad.
It's really not. It's literally like boom, boom, boom.
Well, we're trying to make it like that, but it hasn't got that so far.
We're quite chatty with it. So I'll begin, because why not? Short or free program?
Free.
Yeah, everyone said free.
Yeah.
I'm trying to be quick for you.
That's it. Short free. Love it. Okay. Oh, well, you've kind of already answered this, but if you had to think really quickly on the spot, favorite element?
I honestly don't have one.
Yeah.
I couldn't. I just don't.
Yeah. Fair.
Okay. Spin or jump?
Jump.
Oh, first jump, I think.
I don't know why. I don't know even why I said that, because I I said I'd answer quickly for you, so I did.
Perfect. Okay.
I think maybe it might be something to do with the fact that right now I'm working with lots of single skaters. I'm
Right.
currently in a jumping phase. So
Fair.
Nice.
Okay, fair enough. Favorite turn?
ooh, rocker.
Ooh, yeah.
Nice.
Nice.
Not
Favorite.
personally.
Just
Really? Okay. Favorite program you've skated? As a throwback.
Oh, I don't have a good memory.
Oh God.
gotta have
No.
Or that you've coached. Or that you've coached.
Yeah, we'll give you that. Yeah.
Okay, so my basic novice team at Winter Cup in Belgium in 2013. And because they skated to a Cinderella story, Once Upon a Song,
Oh,
and
Fabulous.
the music was just pure cheese.
yeah.
And we went there with no expectations, and they won.
Oh.
That's yeah.
And the reaction, the photo of the reaction is the best thing ever. So that would be that's like one of my best programs from my choreography personally
Yeah.
that I really like.
So-
But also we did Sister Act in 2010.
You've had some cracking themes.
Oh, I spend a lot of time for music, and I don't do this whole serious emotional. I love the happy.
Yeah.
I
And
do
I-
love the emotion, but I don't like choreographing it. I like the fun stuff.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That's such a nice way to be. Okay, last one. Do you have a favorite program of all time that you've watched or skated or coached? Like just one that.
Honestly, no.
Yeah.
I know that's disappointing that I can't name one, but I could sit here and list off 100 programs
Yeah.
just in the last year that I've seen that I love.
Mm-hmm.
What
I'm a
about
synchro.
last season? Do you have one from like senior last season?
Not really.
No.
I'm a
Too
synchro
many.
geek. I love them all.
Yeah.
I honestly and truly just, yeah. I could name, honestly, I just couldn't.
And aren't we all synchro geeks? Nerds. That's what we're here for. That's why we spend our time just chatting about synchro. And it's been lovely to do it with you, Amanda.
Yeah.
So thank you so much.
Well, thank you for inviting me.
No,
it's been amazing.
It's honestly been an honour, and it's been so insightful to get like the other side's view.
Yeah.
And
you are so
it's-
appreciated in the whole community, so I feel like it's so nice to get
massively.
your point of view and a bit more about you. So
Yeah, we see your name on a panel or we hear you and we're like, yes.
That part always makes me laugh. And I always have somebody on the panel. So how much did you pay them to cheer?
My favourite was when Brie and I bumped into Amanda at a competition last season that perhaps she wasn't expecting us to be at because we were skating with another team, and it was on the ice. We were in the starting position and I just smiled at her. I was like, hi. That was my favourite.
It is
But that's-
funny. It's funny when skaters, and to be funny, even if you don't know us on the panel,
Yeah.
there are skaters out there who look you in the eye and grin anyway, and you don't know them, and you sit there and it's like, do I just smile back? Way. So I do love it when skaters make eye contact. Oh, sorry.
note to self, note to coaches. There you go.
And on that note, we're going to say goodbye to Amanda. So thank you so much for coming on the podcast. And yeah, it's just been great to chat. We look forward to seeing what you get up to this season.
So that brings us nicely to the end of episode 7.
It does, doesn't it? That was lovely.
That
I
was
really
so
enjoyed
nice.
that.
Yeah.
It was so, as I said, insightful to see it from
Okay.
the other side. So
Yeah.
that was good.
And this was a long one, so I think if you've made it this far, thank you very much for listening.
Yes.
But it will
thank
all be
you.
worth it. Every minute will have been worth it.
Yeah, you will learn something new from that
Yeah.
episode for sure. It's
Alrighty.
also a good time to say Merry Christmas because this will be our
Oh,
last
yeah.
episode before
For
Christmas. So
Exciting.
Merry Christmas, everyone.
We will
We've
see
we
you
will
in the
see
new
you in the new
year.
year. Yeah, exactly.
This is crazy.
Thank you. Thank you so much for the past couple months. Like, it's been incredible, all the like love and stuff that you guys have shown us,
Yeah.
and we just enjoy chatting, and you guys are actually listening. So thank you.
Unbelievable.
Literally.
Alrighty.
Alrighty, we will see you in the new year, guys.
Lots of love. The Synchro Skaters Club.